just to Hey, Adam, how are we doing? Whoa, that's it. Hold on. We're there. Hold on. Here we go. Never trust live stuff. Here we go. Adam, hi, are you there?
Yes. Hey, Andy, how are you?
I'm epic. Thank you. A few technical issues there. As he started going through the 30 seconds, I was like, oh, it's great because I can press share on my Facebook. Anyway, I didn't quite get there quick enough. And I think that's why it went. So, Adam, thank you very much for joining me. Thank you very much, everyone who's joining us, wherever you are or wherever you're listening to this after it's recording. My name's Andy Hooper from Global E-Commerce Experts, and this is the E-Commerce Expander Secrets podcast. And today I'm specially joined by Adam Marriott, one of our great partners from Revstep. Hi, Adam.
Hey there, Andy. So good to see you again and be on this this podcast. So excited to just chat and let's see what we can do and talk about e-commerce. Excited about it.
Exactly that. Yeah, let's chat about. My favorite thing to talk about is e-commerce. So that's great. And this really is what this is about. It's talking about our great partners, about what they're doing, how they're supporting their customers. A bit about you, Adam, before we even get into that, and then we're going to talk about the state of e-commerce and what we're seeing right now, because I think there's some really, really crunchy things to talk about, which is going to be exciting. So, Adam, if you could, before we even go down that route, perhaps if you could give us a little intro. Who's Adam? What you currently do? Where you're currently based? And we'll go from there. How does that sound?
Sounds great. Sounds great. I think I'm probably one of the most experienced e-commerce shoppers. I have 7 children, and we do all sorts of e-commerce shopping for them in all different categories. So just to get that off my chest, we definitely spend a lot of time online, and obviously during the pandemic, we spent even more time online. And so you wouldn't believe what we purchased on e-commerce over the last year. And so anyway, we can get more into that, but that's just a little tidbit about me. I've got a large family. I live in Salt Lake City, and that is the headquarters of Revstep. And I'm an avid outdoorsman. I love to bike. I love to hike, anything outside. We got the Rocky Mountains right behind us. And yeah, we have a little team here, and we're really happy to dig in and see what's going on. It's a really exciting time to be a part of this industry and to see what the brands are doing, at least the ones that we're working on and the ones that that we're partnered up with. And it's just such an exciting time to be a part of the e-commerce world. We look at all the different brands, and we look at all the different things, the people that we're talking to around the world. I mean, we talk to people in Europe, we talk to Canada, China, and all of these different types of businesses. It has reacted very differently. And so anyway, we're getting some pretty interesting perspectives about from our Revstep management side of it, where we get to kind of dig into each different category and see how they're reacting to the pandemic. And anyway, you know, my background is I started at Kohl's department store. You know, internationally, you may not know Kohl's department store, but it's one of the biggest retailers here in the United States. And I went there right out of university and worked in the buying offices. And at the time, that was 2007 to 2010. I worked there for 3 years. After that, I went and got an MBA. But while I was there, we were expanding like crazy, brick and mortar. We started, when I got there, we had, I think, 800 stores, brick and mortar, nationwide. And by the time we left, we had over 1,100. Well, that's not the trend anymore. And that's and you know, that's when e-commerce was just starting to get going for some of these brick and mortar retailers, these big ones like Kohl's department store. And it's just really interesting over the last 10 years what has happened. And then the pandemic just kind of just put it into a totally new category. I'm sure we'll talk more about that. A lot of crunchy things, as you say, that we can chew on. But that's kind of my background. got into sourcing in China, partnering with some factories around the world, and then bringing their products to life and doing some of my own. So I have my own experience where we went and got products and brought them in and started selling them on Amazon about 4 or 5 years ago. And boy, that was just a roller coaster. But from that experience, we really understand both the small guys and then how to expand that into the big type of companies and the challenges you find at each stage of, the progression as your company grows. And sometimes as your company fails. We've had several products that we've done really well with. We have a few that we haven't. So not everything works on e-commerce.
No, fantastic. Well, thank you very much for joining us. I'm going to pick up on a couple of those bits because I want to dig in. So now the first thing I think we're going to talk about is, I think where this is going is the cycling. Because I think we discussed before that I quite like my segment. Now, but did you say you were a road cyclist before? Do I remember that rightly?
That's right. Mm-hmm.
So what's it like cycling into the Rockies, did you say?
Well, actually, interesting. So, Lance Armstrong, perhaps one of the best cyclers, and he would actually come to the canyons that I ride in and practice because they're just straight up. These Rockies, you're going straight up. So sometimes you can see the really famous people coming up into Salt Lake City just to hit some of those canyons. But yeah, there are canyon rides where there's races where you do 5 canyons in a row. It's like, I don't know, over 12,000 feet climbing in a day, and you do all these canyons. And I've got a 100-mile race on Friday, and then I've got a 140-mile race next week. Wow. And then culminates, I'm not doing this one, I did it last year, 205-mile race in the fall. So a lot of cycling going on. It's really fun, but we're just coming out of winter. I mean, you can still see the snow at the tops of the mountains. So when you're going up there, you're bundling up like it's winter, because up top you're just really cold with that wind chill. But super beautiful, great time of year to be biking outside.
Yeah, basically, I need to get my backside over there and do some road cycling with you, don't I?
Oh man, Andy, come on out! It would be so much fun.
Although I think you're probably slightly fitter than I am on a bike at the moment. All I'm doing is a spin session. Now you said the 12,000 foot of cycling. I did do a 100 miles on a mountain, or 110 miles on a mountain bike, and that was 12,500 feet of climbing, which on a mountain bike is quite hardcore.
That is super hardcore. That's crazy.
But that was a couple of years ago now, so that's nothing to judge. And it took me a very long time, but I'm excited because every time I go to with the whole COVID thing, you can't fly. So I was like, next time I go to Vegas, I'm getting a Mustang. I'm going straight out, and I want to go and see the Grand Canyon. Now, obviously, you're the other side of it, aren't you?
Yeah, we're north of it. Yeah.
So, but still, I'm like, I just want to get a Mustang into the hills. That'd be awesome, wouldn't it? But I'm definitely keen on a bike ride. I think that's what I need to do next.
Well, you got to come out. Some of the best mountain biking in the world. I might be a little biased, but come on out. It's really great. And actually, I saw that you're going to be a keynote speaker down at Las Vegas White Label. Is that right?
Yes, in theory, yes. Whether we get there or not,
who knows? Some of these trade shows and things are canceling even now. You think we'd be coming out of it, but
yeah, anyway. I mean, I think that they're saying that it's going to go ahead, but we don't know whether we can get there or if we've got to quarantine when we come back. So there's a whole load of questions about whether we should go, whether we shouldn't go. We're still down to go. We still want to go, and that's when I'm like, because I've added a day on so that I can do some of those nice things that I wouldn't ordinarily have done in the past.
Well, come over. We'll hang out. We'll see you there if you're there. So
that'd be awesome. We're supposed to be going to. We're digressing slightly. We're supposed to be going to Vancouver in the summer for our holiday, and my son is like, "Can we do Whistler and do that?" And I'm like, I'm not sure we're quite ready for that, boy, but we'll see. Anyway, so let's crack on. So, Adam, let's go back to how did you get into e-commerce? You said you started off in Coles. That's where you started. Then when you did your MBA. But how did that then migrate into e-commerce? What was that stepping stone?
There's something about e-commerce that I really love, and it's that the reach is so easy. You can reach, millions and millions of people with your messaging and with your advertising. And I just thought, this is really the future. E-commerce, when I looked at what they were doing with retail, and yes, you have this retail experience. They thought so much about going into the store and, what pathway we should tell people to walk through. I mean, you look at IKEA, you get stuck in IKEA for an hour and a half just trying to get out of there. But they do that purposely, so you see things and you have this experience that you go through. And I just thought, e-commerce technology, it's going to be so much easier to do this. And so I like the idea of having a digital experience. And if you can create a digital experience, and a lot of things are happening now to make that a lot better, and pandemic pushed that forward. But I like the e-commerce because it was easy at first. And you could get there almost immediately, where you're fighting for shelf space in the retail store, the brick and mortar. You can, pay a little bit of ad spend and get right there in front of so many different people. So it seemed like a bigger opportunity. I'm kind of just this retail baby inside. I like the moving parts of all the different types of products. I like product development. I like kind of creation. And that's why I ultimately came back to retail. And e-commerce was go ahead.
Where it was, you're coming from the retail side. What did you do in the retail sector? What was the sort of main sort of role that you were sort of focused on?
At the buying offices at Kohl's? Yeah. So we were in the buying offices. My first role was, analyst. But so the analyst, they put me in juniors and junior sportswear. And I thought, going in, I didn't know a ton about retail. So when I heard junior sportswear, I thought, okay, this is like teenage sports gear. No, juniors apparently is teenage girls clothing. So we had like celebrities, Fergie, we had Hayden Panettiere, and then ultimately it was Britney Spears. And those were our celebrities that came into the brand. So I analyzed all the 1,000 stores. I decided how much inventory would go to each one. I would say, okay, well, we have coats. Where do coats go? Do they go to Florida? No, they don't. Maybe we'll just send it down all the way down to Texas, top of Texas. And then, so that was that. And then I got moved into the men's sportswear, which was like, tops and, coats and different things for men, and kind of managed a team there that would kind of analyze the trends of where it was going, where things were selling, and what, just a lot of data, frankly. We're pulling reports, and data is supposed to drive your decisions. And so whatever it said we would do, then I would go present that to the higher ups. And then we discuss like this different strategy and how to roll things out, how to test new products. We select 200 stores out of the 300 or out of the 800 or 1,000. We test new things. And then I think from that, it kind of gave me this excitement about, pushing the envelope based on the data. So I'm a stickler for data. You can't just guess. That's a bad strategy, is just guessing. So what does the data tell you? Where do you get that? With 1,000 stores and lots of customers, you had a lot of information. Today, you also have a lot of information. You can get all sorts of softwares, and you can kind of bust into there and download keywords. You can download different reports. You can download from your own sales on whatever e-commerce platform you're on. Amazon is a great one. You can download tons of information and then find what the opportunity is, but also understand what your competition is doing a lot better than you could in the brick and mortar.
I was going to actually ask that. That data that you were talking about there from your past experience, you were then talking about bringing that into Amazon, and then exactly that. You can see how your competitors are doing a lot easier, because you're in a brick and mortar. You can't see, unless you're next door to them, you can't see the number of people coming in and out. But yet you can see where they rank on Amazon. You can see what their numbers are. You can see that, right? You're not going to get their complete sales forecast, but their data does things into the background. It gives you great understanding, isn't it? So it gives you a much better idea.
It's interesting. While we were at Kohl's, we spent a lot of time going to the stores and walking through JCPenney's and walking through Target and different, seeing what sales they were doing and all of that. Thanksgiving, like Black Friday, you're up at 5 a.m. because at that time, I think most stores were like opening at 6, and then like a few years later it was 5, and then how that goes. And then I think now they're open at like on Thanksgiving Day. So every year it kind of goes an hour earlier until you're just shopping during Thanksgiving, which I am against, frankly. Just let it be. But anyway, it was very physical. You had to get into the stores, and we were writing down, okay, they're selling this, they're selling that. This is the discounts. On e-commerce, you can just see. You can see exactly what they're selling. You can see the advertisements, and you can see what they're bidding, partly because you're competing with those people, with your competitors. You're competing with them, and you have to bid, and those ad costs have gone up as people have come into the e-commerce business. And from around the world, you have people, at least in the United States, you have tons of Chinese companies coming in, and they're bidding that up. In fact, I think one of the statistics was that since the pandemic, ad spend per click on average, at least on Amazon, was around 70 cents, 75 cents. And that in the course of 5 months had gone up to $1 on average. Wow. Why? Because people were focused on Amazon. People were focused on getting into the e-commerce side of it. And then more competition came. So, when I started launching brands 4 or 5 years ago on Amazon, it was way easier. There was less competition. You could rank faster. You didn't have to spend as much on clicks, but people understand that they have to be on e-commerce. So everybody's coming there. And so what we need to do and think about is creating the experience for the e-commerce, shopper and that customer. What are they expecting?
Yeah, I think it's really important about how you create that experience and how you differ to other people, because as you say, when you're, there's so much more competition out there, then actually what happens is that enables you to raise your game at the same time. And if you don't raise your game, you'll just be left behind because everyone else will raise their game. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. And I think that's really interesting, seeing those differences come through. Yeah, I think that's really, really key right now. So what was the first product you sold?
First product. So I quit my job, my desk job. We were doing some sensors in the oil fields and just anyway. And I said, and it was a family business actually. And I have a couple of brothers that work there too. And I said, I love you brothers, but I can't work with you. I want to keep that relationship going. So I said, I'm gonna quit. I'm gonna go to China. So I flew to China, and I said, I'm not coming back until I've visited the factories, I've spoken to the owners, and I know exactly who I'm working with, because I don't trust just simply going through Alibaba. Maybe I just have a trust issue. I don't know, but I wanted to do it right. So I went out and started doing nursing covers, which would kind of go over the head and drape over the shoulders so that you could breastfeed in public or wherever you wanted to be a little bit more modest if you like that. And so we did that. We did swaddle blankets. We did a couple different baby products, bonnets, and different things like that. And that went well. But really what was more exciting was the relationships that I built. So when I was in China, I made a pretty good relationship with one factory owner. He spoke really good English, and he's like, "Hey, do you want to come play basketball with us tonight?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's do this." And so when the American shows up, everybody shows up. We got to go beat this American at basketball. And I mean, these guys were super rough. I came home with like a torn ear and bruises all over my body, but I won. And that was most important. No, but afterwards there was a factory that came up, and he produces glass water bottles, and this is one of them.
Yeah.
Bamboo lid, kind of a nice feel on the silicone. And he said, "Well, can I convince you to help me sell these on Amazon?" I said, "Well, sure. Yeah." The answer is yes. "What's your brand name?" And he said, "My brand name is Just F Water." And I thought, "Why did you name it Just F Water?" And he said, "Well, Just for Water was taken, so we just named it Just F Water." And I said, "Well, that kind of sounds funny. Let me think about a new brand name, and we'll relaunch it for you, and we'll kind of do this partnership thing." And we launched it at its Origin Glass Co., and that just took off. And maybe it was good timing, and maybe it was some of the good things that we were doing, but a great experience for us. Origin Glass Co. is one of those. So glass water bottles and baby bottles and all sorts of glass drinking flasks and different things like that.
And I think it's really key, coming back to that, is that building those relationships. First of all, congrats, because that's obviously gone really, really well. But actually building those relationships and going to the factories is absolutely critical. Because didn't you go out there a little while ago as well?
Say that again.
Didn't you go out there a little while ago? You was out there like a few months ago, wasn't you?
Oh yeah, that's right. So I couldn't get into China, but we were doing some factory visits in Bangkok, and Bangkok, Thailand was like a total. I mean, they have they're recording like 78 deaths total for COVID. So they're super conservative. And so, yeah, I flew in there. They put me in a hotel room for 2 weeks alone. I couldn't come out for the first 7 days. I didn't leave the room for 7 days, and then they would let me out for 1 hour a day. That sounds like jail to me, like prison. You know, they give you the 1 hour outside a day. But yeah, I'm willing to go the distance, I guess you'd say, to vet out the right factories. I don't want to just trust somebody's word. I want to go and see it myself, which means that I can speak confidently to all my customers. I mean, we do some sourcing, we do some different things for different customers that are trying to sell product on Amazon and other e-commerce sites.
I think that's a really interesting point, because a lot of sellers are saying to me, where else should we be sourcing products from? Where are the other opportunities? Where can we do that? Obviously, a lot of the sellers we work with are expanding into Europe. So one of the questions, they're like, well, Andy, can we source products in Europe? How do we do that? What do we need to do to make that happen? But actually, most sellers are still buying things from further afield because it is cheaper to make things. So talk me through the difference between you buying something in China and buying something in somewhere different, like Bangkok, for example. What's your experience so far?
I had higher hopes actually about sourcing out of Thailand. China is so dialed in,
yes,
and they know the process so well. And I think it'll take a little bit more time for some of these other, outside countries to get up to that level. But we're seeing a lot more coming out of Vietnam. We got some stuff out of Vietnam. We're still working with some people in Thailand. And you have to really think about the political and the government structure in each of these countries. They're pretty loose in some of these countries. Malaysia, Bangkok. It's basically, if I know somebody in the government, or if I know somebody high up in the royal family, and you have some connections there, and which I made while I was over in Bangkok, which is pretty interesting. They have so much power, and yes, you might say China has so much power, but China, they're very focused on regulating that so that they have a good presence, and so that people think positively about the whole country. And so, I don't know. I think it'll take some time for other countries to get up to the level of production as China.
Yeah, because when you go to China, there's certain areas that do certain things almost.
Yeah, right.
You go to a certain area, and we went to various places when I last went. But when you think, okay, I'm going to go and visit some factories in Shenzhen, was one of them. What you don't realize is that Shenzhen has got like 20 million people in it, and the distance is like the size of the UK or something. Like, it's bonkers. So you're like, well, I'm just going to get in a taxi and go to this one, to this one, to this one. What we don't realize is those taxis are like, they're like 3 hours apart.
Yeah.
Like, it's huge. And people don't factor that in when they're doing that. And we certainly didn't the first time we went. We learned after that, obviously.
Oh, sure. Maybe you're flying from one city to another. I mean, Shaoxing might be there for, fabrics, and then you might go to Shenzhen for electronics, and you might go to another city for, wood and wood products and different things like that. Which we've done. It's quite a wild ride if you stay there and see the different parts and really, the more high tech, the bigger the city, the more expensive your products are going to be if it's produced there. You have to go out to the boonies to get the better prices, because they can. What's happening is people from the country are coming into the big cities, and so they have to charge more, or pay them more, so they can live there and send money back. So if you can get out to a factory in the countryside, you'll get better prices, because people are living there. They don't have to, commute and spend their time in a new city.
Have you done Canton?
Yep, been to Canton.
I haven't done Canton yet. I wanted to go last year, but obviously that didn't quite happen.
Yeah, no, it's so huge. You got to go for sure. I don't know if are they going to open it up this year? I kind of doubt it.
I can't see it going this year. Maybe next year or the year after. There's no rush, is there? I want the experience, definitely. Okay, all right. So obviously you then launched some products. You've been launching products. You talk about Revstep. What does Revstep do? What at its core?
Yeah, our core really spun off of some of the partnerships and the products that we had launched initially with some of the factories in China. After that, we had companies starting to approach us saying, hey, we need help on Amazon. These are companies in the US, and we want to grow and we want to expand. Can you help us do that? And so we were doing that. So we started to build a team of service. So we have one part, we were just doing products, and the other part, the service side really started to take off because there's so many companies out there that don't know what they're doing on Amazon.
Yeah.
And they get in there and they try it for 3 months and they cause more problems when they start to try to do it themselves and they don't know what they're doing, that we have to come in and fix it. And so we started slowly and started to ramp up and got some bigger brands. And then we looked at Europe and we said, look, how do we differentiate as an agency? Yes, we're doing all the PPC, we're managing the listings, we're talking to Amazon or India, who, wherever the problem is, we're talking and figuring that out. We have some people inside corporate Amazon that we can connect with, which is very helpful as an agency. But we thought Europe is so important, and really it's a bigger population that Amazon covers in Europe than it does in the US. But very first, everybody starts to think, okay, I got to be in the US because that's where we got over 100 million Prime subscribers. So I got to be there. But we looked at Europe and thought, man, this is like, we have a crystal ball, so to speak. What has happened here in the US is happening in Europe. In the US, initially, they said, hey, everybody, come on, be a vendor, and we'll buy your products from you and we'll sell it. And they did that, and they got a lot of people to come onto the platform. What was it, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago? They cut over 100,000 sellers out of the vendor program because they had as many as they wanted, and they didn't need to, buy this inventory if it wasn't selling. But that's what was happening in Europe, and we're seeing this happen. So we thought we have a kind of an interesting perspective coming from the United States, seeing what's happening here, managing many companies here in the United States and Canada, and we can go over there. So we started attending some trade shows, and then that's how we got in touch with you, Andy, and GEE, and you guys have really helped us a ton get some of our American companies over there with VAT services and logistics. But that's really kind of where we see the blue ocean. We see brands going over there, and way easier. I mean, talk about like 2 years ago, Amazon US, way easier getting onto the platforms in Germany and UK specifically and getting to the front page. We have one brand that, and this is a Chinese company, but their brand, they said, we're going to create 4 brands. And they were doing water bottles as well. They said, we're going to create 4 brands and put them all in Europe. And they did, and they had all 4 brands on the front page because there was so little competition. And we kind of coached them on how to do that. I look at Europe as kind of the next frontier, really, for all of these US brands. And so that's really one of our focuses at Revstep, is to be an international company. And to bridge that gap over the water over there. And then we're also taking some European companies and bringing them into the United States. I think that's really important to do too.
Yeah, I totally do. I think there's a huge amount of sellers that actually struggle going from the UK to Europe and Europe to the UK, certainly after Brexit, let alone going over to the States. And actually, the States, while you say Europe's got a bigger market, it has actually got more people you can sell to. It's just that there's more marketplace competition with some of those, and there's a few more languages to factor in.
Sure.
So it's slightly more complicated, but actually the rewards, as you said there, are much higher longer term because there's an opportunity.
Yeah, what we're seeing is that people are going online. People do more research on Amazon, at least in the United States, on brands than they do on Google.
Yeah.
And as the pandemic came, more people have started purchasing internationally and looking internationally. And so when you talk about brand presence, your brand, as it grows, needs to have a presence, I would say, on Amazon, because that's the most, most prevalent e-commerce site around the country, around the world.
Yeah.
And so, we say you need to have your brand presence and you need to grow. This is the next opportunity, expanding worldwide.
And I think that actually is the key, is the Amazon piece. Whilst Amazon is just one marketplace and there are other marketplaces that you can capitalize on, actually it is the one that is world renowned, pretty much. So actually you only have to be on one to be a global brand, although actually, you might want to diversify, and we can talk about that at a later date, but that diversification should come. But actually, Seller Central in Europe is the same broadly as Seller Central in the States.
Sure.
Japan, Australia, it's all broadly the same. So actually what you're seeing is exactly the same. Therefore, it makes it almost a no-brainer. Like, it's just, why don't we?
Sure. And, I would also say that, like, the digital experience that Amazon's trying to create they're doing some new things. I mean, they're really focused on video. One of the statistics on video is that if you have a video on your listing, you will have 3.6 times greater click through and sell through rate once people get to your detail page. They're using video for advertising. I know they've been doing it for a little bit, but it's coming, and it's coming in a big way. We recently did some live videos on Amazon. We paid an influencer, and we did some live videos, and you see some pretty interesting upticks because people are getting into this video. And I think the younger generation too is expecting it. It's not just a nice thing to have. It's an expectation that consumers have.
Yeah, they don't go on to the shopping channel. When I was younger, UVC, if you like, or
you're right,
products on the TV was a bit of a sort of a unique thing, wasn't it? It's like, oh wow, someone's trying to sell me something on the TV. I'll sort of click into that. And really, with Amazon Live, what they're trying to do is replicate that. Like, they're not reinventing the wheel here. What they're doing is taking something that's already worked somewhere else and bring it in. And I think that actually, I totally agree. It's a massive opportunity. I'm glad you had an experience of doing that.
Yep. And Facebook Live too. I mean, you can. Yeah. And I don't know how Facebook Live works internationally. I just know how it works in the United States. You can make so much money if you have the right person up there talking about your product and promoting it. So the live aspect, what we're doing right now, I mean, getting out there in front of people live is really important in this digital age. And that experience is super important. And we're not just talking about like videos just to post, here and there. We're talking about your website. We're talking about Amazon. We're talking about your social media. If you have the trifecta, it is super helpful, at least when you talk about your sales, not just on your website, but on Amazon. You have social media pushing to Amazon. Amazon recognizes that. They rank you higher because you're driving organic sales into Amazon. You have your website that is, kind of this brand core where somebody might go onto Amazon and see, okay, what is this? Do I trust it? Okay, it has good reviews, but then they'll go to your website. And they'll see, okay, is this a real brand? Are they, a reliable company? Am I just buying from a Chinese company that doesn't really care about brand? They just want to sell me something cheap. And, the truth is most of our stuff comes from China anyway, cheap or not. But the point is consumers want to be buying something that's special, and they're going to check out all of the different platforms. So they come together. In fact, one of our brands that we manage on social media and their website and their Amazon, the brand said, we don't want to pay any more for social media, and we're just going to let our website just kind of hang out and it'll get its sales. Well, we had influencers and social media people reaching out to us who had promoted the product before, and they said, "What are you doing? We can't promote you. We don't want to tell people about your product because you don't have a good presence anymore." So people notice it, and other influencers notice it. And so if you want a really good marketing program, you have to have all three, and you have to be active on all three. And that takes a lot of work.
Yeah, interesting. I was listening to something on an audiobook earlier about momentum. And actually, that piece sort of comes into play here. You need momentum across various channels in order to push and drive everything else forward. Because if you've got momentum in one area, that's amazing. But actually, by having the momentum in other areas as well, will help propel you in all those other areas. You cross-platform website. I think that brand recognition is becoming so important. Almost in order to expand into Europe, you almost need your enhanced brand content. You need a trademark almost as a guarantee now. If you haven't got that, we can see sellers in those areas just drifting away almost. Mm-hmm. So there we go. So Adam, what I want to move on to next is what you see over the coming months. Leaning, because we're coming up to that period now where people's focus are clearly on Q4. We're getting to a point where we're thinking, okay, Q4, it's only around the corner. Like, we're not that far away from Q4. I know everyone's like, well, we're only in Q2. Yeah. No. Q4's there. Like, and with all the problems with boats getting stuck here, like, that's a massive issue. So what do you see right now? What's the key things you're thinking about over the next 6 months or next 3 to 5 months as we gear up for Q4 that you're talking to about your clients or advising, or what does that look like right now?
Yeah, no, you hit it right on the dot. I mean, when you're thinking about Q4, you have to be, sourcing your product now. You have to be organizing it and planning and saying, how much inventory do I need to get through the Q4? And I think that's something that we've seen in the past year, that so many brands ran out of stock. Supply chain is all upside down. And so when I look at e-commerce is up, what, 20%, more than that. Depends on the brand and the category, but you have to plan your supply in order to get there. One of our companies ran out of leggings. Well, in the past, it's been easy to get leggings. They're quick to make. They're small. You can pack them easily and you can send them out. You can even airship, until you can get your sea shipments in.
Yeah.
Wasn't the case. And Amazon's been really difficult about that when you think about inventory. So the trend that I see happening is that you have to have a really high sell-through to send a lot of inventory into Amazon. And if you don't, they're going to clamp that down and minimize what you can actually send in and store there. So, one of the trends that I see happening is you have to figure out either a 3PL solution so that you can sustain the sales and have somewhere to hold inventory. If you're selling on Amazon, you have to have a 3PL solution, or you have to have your own warehouse. We have our own warehouse for different clients of ours. And frankly, we're not a 3PL. So we suggest don't send inventory to anybody that doesn't know how to ship Amazon products. And
that hybrid model, is fast becoming relevant, around wherever Amazon is. We're seeing that here in Europe. It's absolutely critical that you've got buffer stock here. If you haven't got buffer stock, people are struggling, with the whole inventory thing.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a container on the water, and Amazon's now saying, well, you can only put about 1/10 of that into Amazon. And they're like, well, where am I sending it? Fortunately, we've got facilities in UK, Netherlands, it works. But actually, there was no warning. There was, it was all of a sudden, this is happening. And that hybrid model, that buffer stock, is absolutely critical. So, that's one thing that's definitely happening right now, isn't it?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just having the buffer stock, it's speed and efficiency. People have come, and Amazon's the culprit of this. People used to not expect 2-day or even 1-day delivery, but Amazon has trained everybody to know that they can get inventory quickly. And if they can't, they're upset. If it's 3 days, I've heard people get upset. Like, I can't believe I waited so long to get this product. I mean, we're so super impatient with product. But the data says that, as I've researched and talked to different logistics companies, the data says you have to offer some kind of free shipping. Nobody wants to pay for shipping if it's a 3PL, and it has to be quick and efficient, and that will keep you on top of the game and selling. One of the things that I was thinking about was that ad spend is really important when I look at what's happening. So it depends on what category you're on. Ad spend has gone up, but if you can manage it efficiently and let the data run that kind of your decision making on which keywords to bid on, you can do well. But when I look at, as we're coming out of the pandemic, we have many different categories. I mean, you think about the home category, people working from home. We have one company, and we're doing rubber mats. Well, people are building rubber mat floors for their home gyms because people are doing everything at home. As we come out of that, I don't expect rubber mats to keep going up. If we don't manage the PPC and the advertising and kind of that trifecta that we're talking about, the sales will go down. On some categories, the home categories like kitchen and bakeware and all that kind of stuff, people are going to do less baking as they get out and they go do experiential things rather than staying home cooped up. And so I anticipate some of the categories to slump a little bit. With that anticipation, we need to think, how do I keep it at least steady to where we were, and how do we grow it? That's something to think about. And I don't necessarily have the answer to that, but think about the category you're in. If you're an outdoors category, what I've seen is like tents, for example. Tents, man, they're exploding in the United States. Yeah. Why? Because people were doing staycations and they're saying, okay, what can I go out and do?
Yep.
And actually it's kind of, rejuvenated some of that interest of getting outdoors and doing some of the things locally. And I think that'll continue to grow as we've seen. And we had canvas tents. One of our clients, they were stocked out. I mean, they sold out last summer. They got back in stock. These are like $600, $700, like glamping tents, basically. Yep. In January, they sold 700 units of those. Those are like $1,000 units. And they sold out. I mean, as soon as in January. Yeah, no one's camping in January, really. No. So it depends on your category, but I would say the online luxury category really took a, they got up and they got, what am I saying? The sales increased, but I think some of that luxury experience things that people love to go into the store and pay more money for that experience, that may come down. I think you got to really focus on your ad spend and your presence online.
But what we've seen is some of those, more people have shopped online, but actually what it's done is it's brought new people to shopping online. So actually that, here in UK, okay, let's take the kitchen items as an example. Let's take a chopping board. Like, damn, my chopping board's broke, I need a new one. Well, I won't go to the local department store to buy one. I'll just buy that on Amazon because I know it'll be here tomorrow, type of product. Whereas they might not be thinking, well, I can't get to a shop tomorrow, but I'll shop online. People of my parents' age, that sort of, that's become relevant, and actually it's brought a new demographic to online shopping to think about it slightly different. I think that's where we've seen the change. So I agree with you. I think there might be some categories that have a dip, but there'll definitely be some that have an uplift, like the camping. Like I think it's staycations this year, UK especially, is going to go through the roof.
Well, they're projecting that even over last year, the e-commerce sales for Q4 should be up to last year. And because it is a new trend. I mean, you have my parents, I'm 39. My parents are in their 70s, but they are totally dialed in. They have the app on their phone. They know how to use it because the kids have trained them how to use it.
Yeah.
But they can go on and search anything, and boom, they're sending a Venmo. They're making purchases, and that goes on to, how do you win in Q4? Well, it's not just Amazon. Like, that's our core competency here at Revstep, but when you talk about your website, make sure your website is mobile friendly, and making sure that people can sort there, and the information and how it's distributed is consistent among all the different platforms. That is one way to have that digital experience that people are really reacting well to. And so be available and be consistent.
I think that's absolutely critical going forward. The inventory, let's just talk about the inventory piece, because we've just talked about the inventory piece because we've done that. Let's talk about briefly reviews. Obviously, there was a whole load of things very recently with all these reviews and 200,000 sellers being taken down and everything else. Obviously, none of us condone fake reviews and everything else like that, just for on the record. But outside of that, how have you seen that impact that's come out of that? What's happened in the States with that? And we can then talk about the Europe as well.
Sure. Well, one thing I like that Amazon has done is they made it easier for customers to leave reviews where you don't have to actually type in, this was great for these 5 reasons or whatever. You can just give it a star ranking. And so that's helped customers be able to see very quickly what is trending and what is, what other consumers are saying about it. I mean, when Amazon is taking down big name brands, at least in the electronics, like Aoki and was it Empow? I can't remember a couple of them, but I know Aoki was one of those that just stuck out to me because I'd done some research on them. Huge electronics. When they're taking their listings down because of a review manipulation, that's a huge warning sign to everybody that's trying to get reviews and pay for those and use the different platforms to do that. I know that, the Chinese companies will pay $10 per review, as long as it's a 5-star review plus reimburse everything, and they'll pay tens of thousands of dollars, and within 2 or 3 months they'll have over 1,000 reviews per listing. That's incredible, and I see why Amazon's cracking down on it. From a startup company, it's really hard to even get noticed on Amazon if you don't have reviews, and so there's some different strategies you can use to get some reviews. We can go into that another time. But when I look at reviews, I think, and I did some research on reviews recently, and it was interesting by demographic, what customers expect. So it kind of broke it out by age group. So 45 and up, they wanted at least 38 reviews on average. 5-star, 4.5 star, 5-star. They wanted about 38 reviews to trust this was a good product. As you went down in age, the number of reviews that the customers wanted went way up. So like millennials, they want 200 reviews before they're going to buy that product. That's a lot of reviews to get organically. I see that based on the percentage of sales, how many reviews do you get per 100 sales? I think you get about 5 if you're,
Yeah.
if you're lucky.
Interesting you say exactly that. My children, I've got an 18-year-old and a 12-year-old, and both of them, when they're trying to get us to buy something, they talk about the reviews of the product. Oh yeah, this one's got really, really good reviews. I've looked at the reviews. This one says this. Oh, this one says this. Yeah, my son, we had his birthday, got some AirPods. Other makes are available, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, it was like, I've looked at the AirPods reviews. It's like, they're just the best reviews that you can get. Like, there's no other reviews for all the other companies, because there's a big thing about fake ones and all the rest of it. Yeah,
right.
Fake ones. It's like, no, mine aren't fake. These are real ones, blah, blah, blah. They genuinely, I looked at the reviews for it, whereas I sort of just glance. I just glance at the reviews, and they go, oh, there's a load of reviews. Okay, 5-star, yeah, done.
Yep.
But they're actually looking at the individual reviews. This one said this one, this one said this one. So I can back up exactly what you've said there, that's exactly right. So these sellers that are coming in and paying for these reviews, sooner or later it's going to catch up with them. I think that's
sure.
fair to say.
Yeah, I think so. I think you can get kind of a base, and you're going to use whatever resources you have to go get reviews initially. Amazon will not recognize your listing unless you have at least 10 reviews. So once you hit 10 reviews, Amazon's algorithm starts to process to say, hey, this is a legitimate listing. So now we're going to start promoting it. So, my recommendation is use whatever resources you have, not your family members, but, to promote that with influencers on Instagram, and, have them promote it and give some discount codes, get some reviews as quick as you can, but, be careful. And really it happens over time. The youngest people, like your 19-year-old, he's going to look for products that have over 1,000 reviews.
Yeah.
And that takes time to get to, but
it's patience.
It's patience, and you can do that. You can follow up with email marketing. There are different softwares that you can use that will respond to your customers, whether you're asking for a seller review or a product review. But anyway, reviews are super important, but don't ignore the keywords and kind of the bread and butter of what an Amazon listing is. The keywords are super important. The optimization is important. And when you talk about like international optimization, for example, we're not just translating stuff. You need to optimize in that language. You don't take an English listing and translate it into German. You have a German that looks at the listing and understands what it is and builds it up from there in their own language. So there are a lot of components, but reviews are kind of the shiny first thing that everybody looks at.
Indeed. So right, I think we are coming to an end. Adam, it's been amazing to have you on. Thank you very much. Adam, if people want to get in touch with you, how do people get in touch with you?
Very simple. Adam@revstep.com. And that's my direct email. You can just email me. We can chat. Happy to answer any questions. Share what I know. No strings attached. Just reach out. Let's talk. Andy, you've been such a great host, and appreciate you taking some time with me today. And hopefully we'll do it again.
We appreciate you coming on and sharing some valuable insights. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much to everyone who's listened. Everyone who's going to listen to the recording. This is e-commerce, Expand the Secrets, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you very much.